Peace and love, soul family. Welcome back to the Soul Speaks podcast. It is Solar Ray here. I hope you're having a blissful rising, a blissful evening. Thank you for joining us. So, today I'm going to piggyback off something I talked about last podcast. It's not going to really be too messy, hopefully not. I have a few notes, but it's going to be about health. It's going to be about spiritual connection. It's going to be about breastfeeding. So, I want to talk about some facts about breastfeeding. I want to talk about some spiritual aspects that came to me when it came to breastfeeding and the idea of breastfeeding, and just some advice to the young moms out there, new moms or moms who are new to breastfeeding. You know, I breastfed for almost 2 years, and I'm going to talk about that later, but you know, it's a struggle, but it's a beautiful, divine journey. And that is why we are here. So let's get started. So I want to start with saying, imagine that the world had created a new dream product to feed and immunize everyone born on Earth. Imagine also that it was available everywhere, required no storage or delivery, and helped mothers plan their families and reduce the risk of cancer. Then, imagine that world refused to use it. Said by Frank Oski, MD. So, we're talking about breastfeeding here, and we are in 2022, and a lot of us have woken up. A lot of us have been exposed to what's really in our foods, what's really in the products that we put on our skin, and we have been more mindful. We have been more conscious. We even have been more creative as Spirit has been leading us to create our own products, healthier, natural products, okay? But I don't know how many of you have been breastfed, and I don't know how many of you have been formula fed, and we can talk about that down below in the comments, but I was formula fed. And I just want to say off the rip, growing up, I was jealous of breastfed babies. And I would just say, because I feel like off the rip, because I've always identified as being an old soul when I was younger. So off the rip, I had an attitude problem about not being breastfed, because maybe I knew the spiritual connection with being breastfed and the actual nutritional properties that benefit that starseed. Speaking of star seeds, I have mine in the background, so if you hear any noise, that's him, okay? So, off the rip, I was jealous. Like, oh man, I wish I was breastfed, because I would probably have a better connection with my mom, right? Like, that's always, like, I've literally always said that. And it's crazy because that's probably the truth. Like, if I was breastfed, it would have been different, you know? That's wild to me, because now, years later, when I have my own starseed, when I am birthing my prince, during puberty ages, I told myself, like, yeah, I am breastfeeding. Like, that's why I have the breast, to breastfeed. So it was already something inside of me and my DNA already saying that you have no other choice, right? Which is fine with me, because that's what I wanted to do. It's just amazing, because when I had my prince, that's immediately what I plan to do. And giving birth in the hospital, it's always going to be different. You know, they try to instill fear in me and my partner. my king, and tried to make us use formula with him. Now, we did use formula for a little bit, but like I said, at that time I was aware but not completely awoken, so I was gullible to the fear tactics of the hospital. So it was about a month or maybe 2 months of formula feeding. Meanwhile, my breast milk supply was, ready and overflowing. Okay, Ace of Cups vibe. So, but once I noticed the reaction between the shots, that they instilled fear in our minds for us to get him, with the formula and the shots, they weren't reacting well together. And I was very much in another spiritual awakening because of having my prince and doing it as naturally as possible. And so I was going through a spiritual awakening at that time. So I did notice a lot of spiritual things when it came to my prince being born and seeing certain things happening. He was scared of the shots, which, as he should, but then also, with the formula and the shots reactions, it just didn't make sense to me. So he stopped getting shots, but then we also took him off formula, and we allowed, because I was freezing up my supply, I didn't let it go to waste. I was freezing it up, bottling it up. And so we started replenishing him with that. And the transformation within a week, he was getting shots for 3 months, like the 4-month shots. So right before the 4-month shots, we were like, no, because I don't like how he's reacting to it. So we didn't go back to the doctor. So it's just wild, like the actual transformation, the actual cell growth, like brain cell growth, and just the cognitive abilities. It just happened so fast. And this is a baby who, when he was in the womb, he was rushing me to eat. So when it came to the breast milk, he really enjoyed that. So I knew I was doing the right thing in listening to the divine with that aspect. And like I said, almost 2 years, 2 months before, 2 months before his second birthday. So it was intense, but it was beneficial. I feel like I hear all the time that breastfed babies are more advanced. Now, I'm not spreading any hate or putting any shade on anyone that wasn't, but advanced in so many ways. When you get the physical touch, when you get love, when you get safety, when you get all of that, as a baby, and actual warm nutrients, and I don't know, I just feel like the combination of the breastfeeding process, each session, is spiritual in a way, and that's just not something that formula fed babies get. And I feel like that's also an agenda, because they don't have as much empathy or compassion or feel as much love or feel as much safety this is not necessarily true, but maybe common or half true. With bottle fed babies, they are, anyone can feed them. That's the point of the bottle, right? For anyone to feed them, so they're not attached to the mom 24/7, right? So there is, I don't want to say like a branch of not mistrust, but there's a branch of okay, I'm surrounded by all these people, and just getting used to all these people. And yes, that is okay in a positive aspect, but in a negative aspect, that can cause mistrust, or that can cause, the baby's not even getting the actual nutrients. What the hell is in formula? What the hell is in that? And what the hell is in it that they're locking it up and it's this much for this amount of little bit of powder? Like, what the hell is this? And then at the same time, they push the cow milk on us. And I'm pretty sure that was cool back in the day, whatever. If you want a farm, you can do that type of stuff. But, that's not really beneficial for us. That's not human milk. That's not milk from the mother that is produced that is beneficial. The baby doesn't have to eat for a while. It can get its nutrients from the mother for a long time until the mother decides to wean. So, I don't know. It's kind of like rushing to put certain man-made foods in the baby at critical vital ages so that certain things are manipulated. And because if we talk about the hood, these individuals living there, they have corner stores. They don't really have grocery stores. They're in food deserts, so they're drinking these artificially flavored juices and all this sugar and all this crap. Like it's literal crap for the DNA, crap for the brain, and just, it's not beneficial to our health. It's not beneficial to activating our powers, to decalcifying our pineal gland. If anything, that is why they give us these things in these food desert neighborhoods, in the quote unquote hood. This is why they give us these things. Certain restaurants that are fast food that are not good. And don't get me wrong, I know what that's like. But that's why they do it. So, already kind of little... I always get a little off track, but I feel like it's relevant. So, I did want to I talked about my experience. Okay, let me get that out. So, I talked about my experience. So I wanted to talk about some states in the United States that have certain statistics about breastfeeding. So the states with the lowest breastfeeding rate, 68% or lower, are Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi. And this is the statistic for lowest at birth. Okay? Initiated. So right off the rip, they're given formula. I wonder why. States with the highest at birth, 90 or above: Alaska, Colorado, Hawaii, Idaho, Maryland, Washington, and Wyoming. Now, with some of these states, I feel like there is a culture there. Like Hawaii, there's a culture. Alaska, there's a culture, right? Like there is a culture where you're close knit. You can't really go to the stores, or if you go to the stores, it's expensive. There's a culture where, maybe the mother is at home and they don't really, they bond with the baby in that way. I've seen documentaries of Alaskan families where they were at home and, the babies helped them fish and things like that. They weren't even around certain towns that had stores. They actually had to homestead it out and to actually hunt and gather their food. Okay, and I know that in Hawaii everything is so damn expensive, so they're not buying no damn formula down there. If anything, they're eating the right fruits and vegetables that nourish their body, because they have a certain culture there as well. So, exclusively breastfed states. This is the low statistic. Arkansas, Illinois, Louisiana, Mississippi, the U.S. Virgin Islands, West Virginia. Now, in Illinois, that's a huge city. They push formula. They try to introduce it to you in the hospital, but they push formula. They push it, and then they lock it up. They have the nerve to lock it up after they push it. lock it up in the grocery store. So it's like, don't try to steal it. We don't trust you enough. And there's a limit too. And then for the highest exclusively breastfed states, 70 or above, is Alaska, Hawaii, Maine, Minnesota, Montana, Oregon, Vermont. That's mountain states. I feel like it's a certain culture. There's a homesteading vibe. There's a, oh, I can't get to town to buy formula vibe. There is a, oh, we birthed our own babies around here vibe. Our neighbors are far away type of vibe. You know? And I don't want to say, but that when you raise your children in a not so dependent, like depending on the government type vibe, like they're stronger, they're more mentally stable, they know how to do things for themselves, and that's like what we want. That's what we need to get back to as star seeds, as black sheep, as earth angels. We need to get back to that. Breastfeeding is associated with decreased risk for many early life diseases and conditions such as middle ear inflammation, respiratory tract infections, type 2 diabetes, sudden infant death syndrome or SIDS, and obesity. Breastfeeding is also associated with health benefits to women, including decreased risk of type 2 diabetes, ovarian cancer, and breast cancer. Exclusive breastfeeding is defined as an infant receiving only breast milk and no other liquids or solids, except for drops or syrups consisting of vitamins, minerals, or medicines. Rates of exclusive breastfeeding were significantly lower among black infants compared to white infants, and infants born to unmarried mothers compared with married mothers. Additionally, older age, urban residents, higher education, and higher income of mothers were all were positively associated with exclusive breastfeeding. I'm gonna just read some more. Breastfeeding benefits for the mother: decreased postpartum bleeding in her uterus, more quickly returning to pre-pregnancy size, decreased menstrual blood loss, and increased child spacing, earlier return to pre-pregnancy weight, and decreased risk of breast and ovarian cancers. Economic benefits: exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months will save $13 billion per year in the healthcare system, not accounting for parenting, missing work, or healthcare costs in adults due to diseases that came on in childhood. Interesting. Any breastfeeding gives a 64% reduction in gastrointestinal infections, 36% reduction in sudden infant death syndrome, 31% reduction in childhood inflammatory bowel disease, probably due to the gut flora of a breastfed baby being different than one found in formula fed. With any breastfeeding, there is a 15 to 30% reduction of adolescent and adult obesity. Now, I did read something about asthma and certain types of eczema too. Like, please go look up breast milk when a mother is sick or when a baby is sick versus breast milk when a baby is not sick. And you'll see how much immunity we have when it comes to feeding our children. We will step into our power. I never felt so powerful breastfeeding my child. And even during the time of weaning, when there was a backup in my breast, because breastfeeding, the breast milk is in the breast. So when it's not being when it's not being withdrawn out of the breast. It's just staying there, right? So there is a backup. And when those things are swollen, I realize how much powerful breast milk is. Like, I realize how powerful it is, like, to myself and also to my child. I've used my breast milk on wounds and rashes. He doesn't really get sick that much. So, and if he does get sick, it's something different. It's not like actual cold and mucus. So, my whole point is, mommies, we need to do things different. I don't know how it is now after this panorama and, you know, the hospital settings. I had my child before the panorama came on. So they were a little bit more lenient and things like that. But I did hear stories about them being tougher about, you know, certain shots and things like that. So I would just say, look into breastfeeding. Look on YouTube. Look at some women who look like you to relate more. And please share your stories about breastfeeding or anything breastfeeding related down below. I really hope this helped. New moms, please don't be afraid to ask questions. I would recommend you look into a breast pump, and also just do your research. But talk to Spirit about it. Hey, baby.
I'm covering this. Where?
Talk to Spirit about it and see where you are led to. I will list some herbs that help with breastfeeding, as well as some tea that helps with breastfeeding as well. So enjoy your motherhood, enjoy your breastfeeding journey, and let's talk about it down below. This is a safe space. So thank you for joining in to the Soul Speaks podcast, and we will see you later.